Good morning. I've just been on a helicopter tour over the affected areas here in this northeast corner of Georgia. We did not get to every county, but we saw pretty good representation of the problem that these emergency management agency directors who are behind me here will give you the story as well. The primary difficulty now is the loss of power, the loss of internet service. We have cleared as many roads as possible, but that's an ongoing operation by local jurisdictions as well as our state DOT. It is spotty. Just to tell you a description, it is not like what you would see if you were looking at the path of a tornado. It seems like it is indiscriminate as to where it hits, whose tree gets blown down and whose house gets hit when a tree falls. But in the Mount area and in the Demarest area were some of the harder hit areas that we saw. But I think the pattern is pretty much the same over much of this part of our state, as it is probably the case in many other parts of our state. Straight line winds that have done significant damage and in the process have taken down power lines, and that has of course incapacitated families when they're without power. In talking with the two the Emergency Management Agency directors of Banks and Habersham counties, they have housed only a very few people that have had to go to shelters, and they're virtually all located with family members, and that's always a better alternative than having to go to a shelter. They are doing everything they can, and everybody that's at every level of government is doing everything that they can to try to bring us back to normal just as fast as possible. So let me open it up for your questions, and we'll have some of the guys and gals who are here with me today. We have two female emergency management directors of both Banks and Habersham County who are here today with us too. So it's not just the guys, it's the girls as well.
Now that you've seen, oh, go ahead, Rick.
How much more difficult does it make for recovery efforts being spotty as it is? You know, when we have tornadoes, we know the area, we can flood the zone, but it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, and it makes it much more difficult. That is indicative of the fact that we asked for a federal declaration for all 159 counties in our state, because the breadth of the hurricane and downgraded to a tropical storm was so broad, it virtually covered the entire state and affected virtually every county in the state to some degree.
Now that you've seen the damage, and we've heard a lot of other jurisdictions talking about declaring local states of emergency so they can get some more state resources, more federal resources, what does the state response look like now, and then what does the federal response look like as well?
Well, as you may know, we did make that federal request for a federal declaration, and the federal government responded in terms of public declaration, and we've also made the request with regard to certain of the hardest hit areas in our state for individual assistance. Now, when it comes to terms of federal assistance, there are certain thresholds of amount of loss that either public entities such as counties and cities must show, and the same is true, of course, with individuals who are filing claims under the federal individual assistance under FEMA. But we have made all of those requests, and I think that we will see very favorable responses. We have seen very favorable responses from the federal government up to this point, and I haven't been able to get in touch with anybody particularly today, but I will before the day is over to find out what other emergency assistance has been granted by the federal government. All right, well, thank you for being here. I think it's important that the people who are affected by this have as much communication as possible through the media as well as through the other outlets that we have available to us. Being without power, being without cable, being without all of those things that we sometimes take for granted makes you feel very lonesome, makes you feel very isolated. So it's nice in times like this to have communities such as the ones we have here in Georgia, who are neighbors reaching out to neighbors, taking in people that they may not even know, and inviting them to come and stay in their home until they can return to their own. So thank you all for being here.